Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. No matter what time of night or day, I'm still just as happy that you stopped by the channel. Thanks ever so much. This is the Social Gospel Worship and Learning Center based in Atlanta, Georgia. We are an online church. We have no building. We don't need one because wherever two or more are gathered, there He is with us. Jesus Christ the Lord. And that's what this is centered on. Christ Jesus and nothing and no one but Him. For today, this is, or very recently was, our Sunday message. And there's been a pretty good response on this already on the blog. I'll be interested to see how this does on video on YouTube. Only time will tell. Our title for today: Our leaders and media keep trying to confuse us. Time to rise up against the tyranny while serving Christ. And before I begin, please help support this online ministry by visiting our store at greatestservant.gumroad.com. All one word, all lowercase, except for the dots. Greatest Servant, spelled just like it sounds. Gumroad, GUMROAD.com. There you will find my books, some faith-based t-shirts, and even some computers. I have no new ones right now. I'm sold out, but I'll be taking care of that very shortly. For now, let's begin. It is no secret by now that our governing bodies, our corporate leadership, organized religion, and the free press, and even our right to self-expression, has become open to question. As skepticism mounts on the part of the American public, the deep state operators inside the Washington Beltway and the lamestream media, as I call them, are finding their credibility evaporating before their very eyes. At long last, the operators behind the U.S. military-industrial complex are being exposed. There is no place left for them to run for cover. Might as well hang it up, people. The deep state is reaping the consequences of all their false flag operations over the decades and the rampant clandestine activities. We live in an extremely violent and dangerous society. But there are reasons for all the violence. Every day, we hear or read about people who get shot to death in carjackings, armed robberies, burglaries, and mostly unarmed civilians being shot and killed by law enforcement. We live in a country that is the world leader in gun and ammunition manufacturing, the world's leader in prison population, the majority of whom are people of color, and they're all there for nonviolent drug offenses, it turns out. If you just investigate that, you'll see what I mean. The U.S. also has the dubious distinction of being the world's leading producer of pornography. The American population are the world's largest consumers of opiate drugs and other dangerous street drugs, street drugs like meth and fentanyl. The ingredients for those so-called recreational drugs come from the poppy fields of Afghanistan or the fentanyl labs in China. Let us recall the words of the prophet of old. We are bombarded with violence, on every side. Shootings, these random shootings in schools, workplaces, churches, bars and nightclubs, and other random acts of violence that are without rhyme or reason. Children are kidnapped, not to be held for ransom like in days of old, but to be sold as sex slaves or to have their organs harvested, sometimes while they're still alive. It does happen. We have violence on TV, in the movies, and especially in many of the video games we play. And so when violence happens in real life, it often mirrors what passes for entertainment. But nearly as much of it is black ops type stuff orchestrated by the FBI, the CIA, or other alphabet soup agencies of the U.S. government. But the prophet Ezekiel wrote nearly 3,000 years ago, and I quote, "This is what the sovereign Lord says. You have gone far enough, O princes of Israel. Give up your violence and oppression, and do what is just and right. Stop dispossessing my people, declares the sovereign Lord." Close quote. That's from Ezekiel chapter 45 and verse 9. The modern day princes of Israel are Israel and the United States. Better work things out between yourself and the Lord. In Europe, pardon me, Chloe, yes, Paul loves you, but not now, sweet, not now. Okay, that's Chloe. She lives here too. Oh, let me straighten myself up. There we go. Now I'm okay. There, now I'm in better shape. Well, let's see. I just finished quoting that. In Europe, to continue, particularly Great Britain and the U.S., the public is being fed a pack of lies by politicians and the mainstream media. They fail to see the links between Israel, Egypt, Syria, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, Libya, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Iran, which are all part of a Washington-led wider geopolitical strategy hell-bent on global domination and controlling the world's natural resources. This includes its petroleum pipeline routes, the revenues from which are crediting the accounts of Western financiers, and the CEOs of oil companies, armaments, and logistics companies. Too many people, remain confused or ignorant, thanks to duplicitous politicians and the compliant corporate media. To make matters worse, the lack of awareness of many is due to simple laziness on their part. They won't apply themselves. It's up to them to fix that. I pray and hope that they do, and to work that out between themselves and the Lord. Like it or not, we have been placed under rigid control, at least here in America. Europe to a lesser extent. Humanity cannot know the true scope and severity of our current reality if they never bother to look and listen. So I, as a devoted follower of Christ, am trying to stop this from occurring by alerting as many people as I can, or for at least as long as I can. We are being treated like mushrooms, kept in fear, in the dark, and fed nothing but crap. Too many people allow themselves to be deceived by politicians and the media that churn out increasingly tired-sounding cliches about a war on terror, or a humanitarian crisis, or a war on drugs, to justify militarism, and to a lesser extent law enforcement's murderous brutality. And the result is that too many people accept the lie that ragtag military forces, illegally armed by NATO terror governments such as the United States, and unelected regimes in the developing world are fighting for freedom and democracy. Let me call this one like it is. Those forces and other nations I mentioned earlier wouldn't recognize freedom and democracy if they were hit in the face with it. The very idea of giving any power to the people is anathema to them. That's why they seek to crush any trace of nonconformity out of existence as soon as it appears. The cycle of violence and hate perpetrated by the Pentagon since World War II has now come home to roost. The result is repression, domination, and control. Now, that applies whether it appears within the borders of the United States, Canada, Britain, Saudi Arabia, or elsewhere in places that are of strategic importance to the United States military-industrial complex. The U.S. track record of crushing democratic governments is well documented by authors and journalists such as Noam Chomsky, Chris Hedges, and historian William Bloom. Look no further to see the attacks on WikiLeaks, on the Occupy, or the 99%, Black Lives Matter, and lately, most lately, the homeless and squatter movement. To see how democratic movements are treated here at home. Look no further to see how democratic workers' governments that took hundreds of years to build in Britain, Western Europe, in Canada, and here in the U.S. are all under sustained attack. Giving the people the opportunity to vote every 4 years, while in the meantime deceiving, misinforming, and lying to them, has no more to do with democracy or freedom than what is happening in Gaza, Israel, and Lebanon right now. And so in closing, if more ordinary folks like us were to turn our attention away from glossy sporting events on TV, on cheap Sunday morning political debate, bogus reality shows, meaningless talent contests, ultra-violent video games, and all the other forms of comatose infotainment on our TVs, on our computers, and on our phones for one stinking darn minute. They might well realize that the billionaire criminal elites that take their taxation and dictate both domestic and foreign policy are in many cases a good deal worse than any number of the regimes that they seek to demonize. Jesus said it best, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God." And that concludes today's more brief than usual, pardon me, Sunday message. Normally at the end of the service they pass around a collection plate, take up an offering to help cover the expenses and make sure that the pastor and his family can eat and keep gas in their cars. Since I don't have a brick and mortar church, I don't have those kinds of expenses. Still, I do need donations whenever or wherever you can. Now, you'll never hear me ask for 10% of your income. I don't do that. Still, any donations that you would like to make, we are paid subscribers to PayPal and to Stripe.com, where we are registered nonprofits. And both those two, excuse me, I should have said a registered nonprofit on both of those websites, or more accurately, both of those platforms. So, if you look below, you're at the bottom of your page there, and scroll down all the way to the bottom, there you will find instructions for making donations on PayPal or Stripe. Any amount you want is fine. The money is used primarily for marketing, internet, and various other subscriptions that we are subscribed to so that we can keep our websites up. Marketing especially is costly and sometimes time consuming. But we're gaining followers bit by bit. Between Facebook and LinkedIn, I have about 8,600 friends and followers, and on LinkedIn, 2,000 of those out of the 4,000 are business contacts. So I'm well connected. Always looking for ways to improve that too, as I'm sure you can imagine. Also in those instructions, if you want to mail us a check, if you don't like doing things online, you know, if you're an older person who doesn't know much about using their phone as far as how to send all that stuff back and forth and receive it, you can mail us a check. We accept those too. The address for the donations, as well as who to make the check payable to, are also located at the bottom of your screen, down at the bottom of the page. So, and if you're unable to donate, it will not be held against you here. We don't do that, you know, like some brick and mortar churches do. We just don't. We do things differently. We do things in a more Christ-like manner because that's what I aspire to be as his representative here on earth. A responsibility that I take very seriously. So send us some help if you can. If you can't, it's okay. One other cheaper way that you could help with support of the ministry is by subscribing to our blog. It's $5 a month or $50 a year, which works out to about 16 cents a day. So if you're drawing a paycheck, you can afford that. Other than your email address, we will ask no other personal information from you or anything like that. So put your fears to rest. You're not going to get hacked. Not from here. My equipment keeps the hackers away. That's how I know. And before you go, don't forget to please give me a like. I need those thumbs up. They help me out a lot. And a share or two. And a subscribe. This is the subscription to the video channel, to the social gospel channel, which is what you're watching if you're seeing this on YouTube. The subscription is free. By the way, there is a free version of the blog too that you can subscribe to for a while as you make up your mind about whether you want to become a paid donor or not. Hopefully you will. And last but not least, I want to thank each and every one of you for the privilege of your time. You are all very much appreciated. And having run out of things to say, at least for this time around, everybody be blessed. Yes, I said be blessed. In Jesus' mighty name.